Hello everyone, and my name's Bobmich, and welcome back to some more Star Citizen. It's been quite a while since I've done one of these talky videos, isn't it? But here we go. So, this video is going to be another one of those rambly videos, I'm afraid. But hopefully with some kind of interesting content that you might at least like. So this is all going to be about the RSI Mantis, which I'm in here. And if you haven't seen the RSI Mantis yet, and you are interested in Star Citizen, you've probably been buried under a rock. So the RSI Mantis is a little bit of the host of some kind of new controversy that's been going around with Star Citizen. It's certainly created a lot of discussion amongst the people who play it. It's sort of uncaged the drama llamas again, shall we say. So the RSI Mantis, if you haven't seen it, I'm just going to go over a quick overview of what it is, what it does, and then I'm going to try and do a little bit of a dive into what I think in this discussion that's been going on about its main ability. So, what is it? It's this thing here. It's very, people have alluded it to looking very Star Trek-y, because it's got kind of a couple of nacelles on the sides there, the engine pods, and it almost looks like a saucer section up front. It really isn't. It's kind of just the way its hull looks. It's not saucery inside at all. In fact, it's quite cramped inside, apart from the main space. It is classed, I suppose, as a light fighter. It's got two size 3 laser cannons, as you can see. These are the new laser cannons that were added in with 3.7, so they're quite fancy. And it's got some missiles in the little recessed areas there that you can see on the front of the hull. It's pretty nippy, so top speed is about 900 something, 1,000 something. We'll find out in a second. So I think it's 1,000. Yeah, I thought it was 1,300, but it's a bit less than that. And it's quite manoeuvrable. As I said, it's a light fighter. It's not very strong, and by that I mean it's basically made of tissue paper, and this is important as we're going to get further on in a few minutes. So what does it do? Its main party piece is what's called a quantum enforcement device. So I'm going to slow down as we come into the asteroid belt here, and I'm going to activate this thing. So to do this, you can see we have two options in here. The Mantis uses the new hood, by the way, the new heads-up display, which is quite cool, as you can see, just like the Gladius does with its revamp. So we're going to turn the QED on, and you'll see this thing in the back opens up, and you've got a sort of gyroscope spinning. It's like some kind of particle accelerator, basically. And see, it's very, very glowy. And even at this sort of low power level, it makes the Mantis quite easily to spot at range. So whenever the Mantis is using this thing, it makes it quite easy to spot. Now it has two modes, this thing does. On the left you have quantum snare. On the right you have quantum dampener. Turning on, or rather activating these, has different effects. So the quantum dampener, which I'm not going to do here because I'll provide an example in a minute. The quantum dampener activates a bubble around the Mantis. So it looks like a big angry red lightning bubble, which you'll see. And this basically stops ships jumping to quantum if you're within 2,000 meters of them. You have to be within 2,000 meters. It's just as if you were being interdicted by NPCs in the game. Interdiction, if you don't know what that means, is when the ship goes all wobbly and sparkly and sounds like it's being torn to pieces when you try to jump to quantum, and then you get stopped before your destination. It's the really annoying thing that people hate in the game. So yeah, this is another reason why this thing has kind of sort of drawn some ire, because people hate interdiction as it is, and giving players the ability to do that kind of raised a few flags. So that's quantum dampening. You turn that on, big angry red bubble, and the Mantis stops players jumping to quantum provided you are within 2,000 meters. Now, this is good because it stops people jumping. The reason it has such a short range is because the Mantis is still able to use its combat capabilities. So it can still fly around with full engine power, it can still fire its weapons, it can still maintain its shields, and it can still fire missiles and things like that. The other mode is the quantum snare. Now you can charge this without generating a crime stat, so I will, and you get to see how cool this sounds and how angry this thing looks when it's ready. And now this thing's charged, and you can see this big red bubble, the big particle gyroscope thing in the middle is going nuts, and it's ready to fire. I'm not going to fire it off because again it will give me a crime stat. I'm going to provide some more examples of that in a minute, but I'm going to cancel it. And you can see up top here you've got quantum snare discharging, and this basically shrinks the bubble. If you fire the quantum snare off, it will generate the bubble around it as you saw, again very visually, so the Mantis is very easy to spot within space even if you haven't got a target frame of reference to begin with. And it is now generating a bubble around it. Instead of 2,000 meters, this one stretches out 20,000 meters. So this thing is a giant bubble in the scale of sort of immediate area in space when you're in combat. So it's a 20,000 meter bubble, 20 kilometers, one of the two, it doesn't matter. The downside to this is the quantum snare and its giant bubble uses all of the available power that the Mantis has, so it's very easy to cancel. So a couple of shots to the shield, or from another light fighter say, or a large shot to the shield from say a Constellation, or anything bigger like a Cutlass, or God help you, something bigger like a 600i 890 jump, whatever, hammerhead if you're really unfortunate, will basically just tear through the shields and the ship. The point is, if you get a shot from other shield that takes damage to the shields, it shuts the quantum snare off for one, maxes out the power on the shields, and basically shuts the ship down. You have no power, you're defenseless, you're screwed. So what I'm trying to prove with this is that the Mantis it's not a sort of a one-size-fits-all interdiction ship. And I'm going to provide an example of when I was testing this thing with Guardian of Space from Synchronizers, and we were both just buggering about in mantises, mantisae, I don't know how you say it, plural, and I fired some shots at his shield when he was charged and he'd fired the quantum snare. So here we go. Yeah.
Alright, well you get to see it charge again.
You can get to see the angry red sphere again.
Do you hear the sound effects from
where
you
yes.
are?
It's a bit quieter, obviously, but I can hear it.
Oh my god. This is too much. Alright, snare ready.
There you go. Now you have the angry red bauble of death. So now you're active. Mine's charging now.
So,
Why is
anyway.
mine charging? I didn't turn it on.
The Mantis are becoming a habit.
They're sentient. Turn that off and discharge
So
it.
anyone going to ArcCorp right now is about to get jumped. Or interdicted, I mean.
So yours is still on, so I'm going to shoot you to see if the shield maxes your power and turns it off.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So you took 2 hits, so that shows you how fragile this thing is when it's got that thing running. You have to stay
It's
away.
pretty balanced. It's really balanced.
Yep. These things are not meant to be like a griefy, pesty thing.
Yeah. It's very, like, situational and strategic. You can't just do it, like, whenever you want.
Yes, you have to protect
You
the
will
Mantis.
Exactly. Or just have backup and let the Mantis run.
Exactly. Okay, so as you saw there, Guardian's Mantis took 2 shots from 2 size 3 cannons, and the QED deactivated, and as well as maximising his shields basically, so he was defenceless. I've just come back to Port Olisar here on the server that I'm on with my Mantis to show that you saw a little message pop up there, said QED deactivated green zone, as you can see. So when you are within certain areas, such as armistice zones, you can't fire this thing to troll people. CIG has worked very hard to make sure that this thing isn't just going to be used as a troll device so that people can grief. They wanted to make that very clear. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what happens when you do try and use this thing. So the easiest way to explain this is when people use quantum travel, they fly in a straight line from A to B. So, for example, I'm going to set this to go to Daymar. And from Port Olisar, this will make me go to Daymar here. So I'm going to charge my quantum drive. You can see this thing is charging, and I'm going in a straight line. Now as I jump, I'm going to deactivate my engines if I don't get interdicted. So I've turned off my engines so that I'm now roughly halfway between Port Olisar and Daymar. I'm now on the route that people use to get to Daymar. And this is what the Mantis is designed to do. So I'll turn the engines back on and we'll face roughly in the direction of Port Olisar, which is somewhere over there. I need to find it again because it's not letting me locate it. There we go, there it is. So we will set our marker exactly on Port Olisar. Now, people travelling from Port Olisar to Daymar, or from Daymar to Port Olisar, will have to go through me, or sort of zoom past me in quantum when they're going. The Mantis is designed to stop this, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to use the quantum snare and we'll see if we can get anything. Using the quantum snare in systems, so by that I don't mean in, you know, the whole Stanton system as a whole here, but say using it around Crusader, or using it around Hurston, or using it around ArcCorp, or Microtech, or Delamar, Microtech when we get it. I've not tried around stations, I assume it's the same, so around any of the rest stops. They're all considered like jurisdicted areas because of the various security, so UEE security, or Hurston security, or whatever, Blackjack security, you name it. Firing the QED on, or turning on the quantum dampening within these zones, so basically when you've got a communication signal and you're inside a jurisdiction, will earn you a 1-bar crime stat, as you will soon see. So you can't just run around systems like I'm about to do and troll players by stopping them going places without consequence. It's not safe to do. But I'm doing this as a demonstration for you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to charge the Q snare, so we're going to let this thing fire off. If you have the QED on, as I do, and you right click is the default, so you don't have to go and use the menu like I did there. You can just right click and it will charge the quantum snare. When it's charged, right click again, we'll fire it. I just love how angry this thing sounds when it charges. So you can see quantum snare is ready. I'm going to right click and fire it. And I'm now running a quantum snare, so anything that passes within 20,000 meters of me is going to get snared. You can see that I've got a 1-bar crime stat now. What we're going to do is we're going to sit here and I'm going to see if I can interdict something. So any ship that goes from Port Olisar to Daymar, or Daymar to Port Olisar, is going to run into my interdiction field and get pulled out of quantum. I'm going to be one of those annoying little bastards that pulls people out of quantum when they're trying to go somewhere and do a mission. You can see that there's quite a bit of chat in the server, so I know that there are people here. I know from experience that when you get something interdicted, you get a HUD pop-up, which I will show you. Hopefully I won't get blown away before I do get a chance to show you, because the last time I did this, when I was testing it, I ran into a player who was flying a Constellation, and we had a little chat, and he was okay with what we're doing, and I said he was quite welcome to try and blow me up, which he did. And he was flying a Constellation Andromeda, and one shot from his Constellation Andromeda's cannons, all 4 shots landed on my Mantis, and it one-shot me. That shows you how weak the Mantis is comparatively to other ships' armour and shields. So we're just going to sit here and I'm going to see if I can get something. Okay, we got a hit. So I had to turn it off and turn it down again, and as you can see, some poor unfortunate person in a cutlass black was trying to go to Daymar, and I got a pop-up on my Hudson quantum snare event. Now quickly, if I look away, you can see that I'm getting a little HUD arrow, like a location to indicate and show me where this is. So this poor person is trying to see where we are. Oh, and now I've got Crusader on me. Time to run away. Let's see if we can go before he decides to take a pot shot. You can see I've got 3 quantum snare events there now because I managed to snare the Crusader security, and now we will gloat as we go past them. Ah. So that's the little showdown of the quantum snare. So you can catch people doing this, and as you can see there was a little cooldown HUD that popped up there for a second. I'm actually going to fly back to Daymar so we can land. And there we go, it's back. So you can see that once you've fired off a quantum snare and you turn it off, or it gets turned off by you being shot, this thing has a cooling down period. The quantum dampener, the short range one, does not. So the quantum snare, as well as using lots and lots of power to activate and maintain, once you actually turn it off, there is a grace period before you can actually reactivate it. This is twofold, because it means that if you do snare something and they shoot you, they have a chance to get away, which kind of balances this ship again. But I'll go a bit more into balance in a second. I'm going to go to Daymar, I'm going to touch down and land, and then we'll go back into a bit more conversation. Okie dokie, we're down on Daymar. So very, very quickly, we'll just go through a rapid tour of the ship. As you can see, it's got a fantastic canopy, lovely view. RSI's new design structure, I hope that CIG is going to implement more. Less struts, more visibility, always a good thing. Bit cramped in here, as you can see, and it's got a bed, so you can have someone stay in here. You can actually log out in this ship, and it has a toilet. It says restroom. It's not really a restroom, it's literally a toilet with a first aid kit. Why you would need a first aid kit in the toilet is down to your diet choices, I suppose. You've got a little food making thing over here, so coffee, all important when you're in something like this, and a food processor. You've got component slots on the walls. You've got component slots in the roof with this lovely lighting thing that I actually really like in here. And you've even got component slots in the floor, which I think is really cool if you need to do maintenance and such. Getting in and out is accessed through this lift, as I will now show you. So very simple ship, as opposed to like access compared to main RSI ships like the Constellation and such. So we move around. Ship is 30 meters long, I think, so it's not a big ship. Like I said, it's quite a small light fighter. So, if you get the Mantis on a war bond, so if you buy this thing with new money, so to speak, you get this flight suit with it. So this is the Sabine flight suit, and my lovely female character here is wearing it, and you get this helmet as well, which I can't quite remember the name of. It begins with C. My younger brother plays Warframe. He said it looked like the Excalibur or something from Warframe. He said it looks very Warframey. I have to say, I do like it. I like the helmet a lot. It almost looks like, if it had very special lights on it, it would look like Rinsler from Tron, or Tron, if you just want to say Tron. But yeah, this is very much my kind of default flight suit now, because I have this from buying this. You get it from buying the Mantis Warbond, and you get it if you upgrade your Aurora to a Mantis. So on the store page at the minute, RSI are offering the choice to upgrade your Aurora to a Mantis. It costs money, as you can imagine, but I don't think it's a bad deal. Now, going into the more mechanical bits behind the Mantis and the sort of discussion that's been going on behind the scenes about this thing, its ability to interdict players and whether we should have that ability just yet. As it stands, I think it's still kind of a bit early to introduce this mechanic in for players to do it. I don't disagree with it as such. I don't think, it's a bold step, which is essentially what this game is doing in every single aspect of its design. So, it's destroying, drawing criticism from many, many angles. Take that as you will. But interdiction is kind of a very hot subject, and players being able to stop players and grief and such is fine overall, because at the end of the day, this is still the alpha. This is still the alpha, and players are going to interdict players and such. But as it stands, yeah, it's drawing a lot of criticism. I don't think it's actually that bad. Yes, this ship can interdict players. Yes, it's annoying. However, this ship is very balanced for what it is. To be clear on that, this thing is not a single player ship. There is no way in hell you're going to be able to yank someone out of quantum travel, disable your snare, chase them and try and shoot them down, unless you are a ridiculously exceptional pilot. This ship just isn't built for that. From my experience with the video I did with Guardian earlier on that you saw, and the run-in with the Constellation Andromeda I had, this thing is made of tissue paper. It will not withstand a big fight. It has the ability to be annoying, but it is not a single player, you know, do and dance to everything ship for being able to stop players and then hunt them down. This thing is designed for group play from the off. It's very much a fleet ship. Ideally, you would have two of them. You would have one running the quantum snare constantly to stop ships travelling in quantum. So you would just have that poor person, whoever that is, just sat there with their quantum snare on, not really doing anything because they can't do anything else because they've got their snare on and it's using all of their ship's power. And then you would have another Mantis who was running the quantum dampener, so that once you did snare something and it was yanked out of quantum, as you saw those that player and those NPCs earlier on, the other Mantis would tackle them using an Eve phrase there. So it will go and tackle them, so fly within 2,000 meters of them and zoom around them to make sure that they could not jump back into quantum travel, even if they left the sphere of influence from the Mantis that was doing the initial snare. So it's my kind of thoughts on it. It's a very, very balanced ship for a first sort of dip in the toe of player versus player interdictions and all that kind of jazz. It's interesting to see the mechanic, and it's what I like about this game. After I had gotten my 890 jump, which I had to sacrifice my 600i and my Constellation Phoenix for, because I just fell in love with the 890 as soon as I saw it, I said I wasn't going to sort of really tend to buy any more ships unless they were really interesting or they brought in some really cool new mechanic. You know, I may make exceptions for things like salvaging again when we get that mechanic back in. But the Mantis was something entirely new, and as well as getting the cool flight suit and helmet, which I do love, it's a cool ship and it's an interesting new mechanic to test out and see how people react to it. And I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. And my game just crashed again. Yay! Okay, back in a server after that. So just to summarise then, the RSI Mantis, I do like it. I think it's a cool ship. I think the idea behind the whole interdiction thing is very cool. It's obviously going to need some work. It's going to be interesting to see how it will apply to other ships that will be able to fit quantum enforcement device components, because apparently this is going to be a thing. And, you know, even how larger ships will be able to, maybe even they will have bigger quantum enforcement devices, so they will have bigger spheres of influence, you know, to be able to tackle larger ships, or maybe they will be a bit more hardy, so they will be able to fight once we get further into the development of the game. But the RSI Mantis, as it is, I think it's quite balanced, and despite the drama that it's kind of pulled in around itself, I actually think it's pretty cool. It's not overpowered in any way. Yes, I suppose it's going to be annoying when people are yanked out of quantum and you know, their journeys get interrupted, because everybody hates that in this at the minute, but it adds more of a flair to the game, and it certainly keeps cargo runners on their toes if, you know, they get yanked out of quantum, and instead of seeing the traditional couple of NPCs, or maybe just, you know, a cutlass or a caterpillar or something, they see a fleet of players charging them instead, with a very angry glowy red Mantis suddenly flying at them. So you have to be a bit more wary now if you're doing some cargo travelling. So with that, I'm going to sign this video off, because you probably got a bit tired of me rambling, and I will leave it at that. I'm going to go and equip some gear, because I actually had to reset my character because I had some bugs, and then I'm going to try and clear this crime stack, because me doing that, you've made me turn into a criminal. So I hope you're all happy with yourselves for the sake of science. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.